This episode of Superconnectivity is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil, me and Parrish.
Hey, Phil, how's it going this week?
Great.
Okay, so a lot of news got dropped this week from Marvel about upcoming comic book items and events. So let's take these kind of piece by piece. I think the first thing that came out was we found out what the I Quits are about. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you saw this, Phil, but what book we're getting back?
The Champions.
That's right. We are the Champions, and it is a bunch of teen heroes. We have Teen Cyclops, which I think is pretty awesome, because he is making his own way. We've got Totally Awesome Hulk. We've got Ms. Marvel and Nova and Ultimate Spider-Man breaking away from the Avengers and their old person foolishness of Civil Wars, along with a new character. Well, not a new character, but a recently created character in the Vision's daughter, whose name I'm blanking on. Which is I'm sorry?
I said I don't remember her name either.
Yeah. I thought that was a particularly interesting addition to the group, simply because she has not been interacting with other teen heroes up until now. I mean, like, Amadeus Cho is a well-known character, has been interacting in the superhero community. Of course, you have the three core members of Tony's Avengers who are ditching him, clearly. And then, of course, you have Teen Cyclops, who, of course, has been around as well. And is a known quantity. So it's interesting to see that there. But I have to say, I'm really excited about this new team and this idea of, a new generation of heroes. We're all a little sad they're not called the New Warriors. At least I am. But I can live with the Champions too. And of course, they do with a Hulk character have a tie with Amadeus Cho, have a tie to the original champions, because of course Hercules was a champion, as was Angel, which ties, of course, to our good friend Cyclopia. Yes. So that's good. So that's a new one, and that I think that's something that we're going to be seeing coming out of the aftermath of Civil War. Is this, as I really feel there has been this strong push at Marvel to bring through our legacy heroes, to put us into a world of legacy heroes far more than our old school heroes. And to that extent, we're also getting a new Iron Man. Did you read? I know you read this one because you sent me the link. Riri Williams, who we have seen introduced in Invincible Iron Man, is going to be taking over the mantle of Iron Man from Tony Stark. Which to me, I know that right now we do have like 3 Caps and, more than a few people with the same names, 3 Caps and 8 Spider-Men running around. And although I know we are doing this thing where we are having multiple heroes with the same name, I do wonder if we're maybe going to be moving away from that, that we're doing this in this temporary thing with, we'll just have more than one Spider-Man, but we're actually going to move ourselves eventually to a point where, Peter and Tony and all these guys move into more of a elder statesman role as superheroes to allow the new generation of heroes to come up, which is an interesting question, especially when we approach it within concepts of the ongoing Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this idea that, eventually we are going to have heroes step down, step to the side, either because they are getting too old to play the roles or because they're just getting too expensive to keep on reusing them. And that's an interesting question. What do you think, Phil? Are we going to be seeing a phasing out of the elder heroes, or do you think that's just the bait and switch, and that of course they always reset to default, and once Franklin puts the universe back where it's supposed to be, then all of the heroes are back where they were, and everything is back in its 15-year cage. What do you think, Phil?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I always wonder how permanent these changes are, but I was having a conversation with our friend Lilith Hellfire the other day, and I kind of wanted your opinion on it too. It's like Marvel right now seems to be going for new people when the identities, trying to update their heroes, but meanwhile over at DC they're getting back to basics with Rebirth. They're trying to bring back stuff from years past that the fan New 52 really didn't go over that well, so they're trying to go with a more classic feel. So I don't know, how do you feel that Marvel seems to be moving forward and like evolving their characters, and meanwhile DC's like going back to basics?
Well, I think maybe, and this is, but you see, I think this maybe is sort of that same idea, though. I think that what you got when you went to New 50, or I don't even know exactly what the exact terminology was. I think with the last universe, the last take on these heroes, I think that there was a lot of risk taking, a lot of breaking down of ideas and deconstruction of heroes and all these things. And I think they did that with the idea that we know this universe is ending, so we can have these games now. We can play these games, and we can just sort of tear it all down because we're going to put it back to square one after the next crisis. I think that was a large part of what Marvel did in the Ultimate Universe. And, when they got Ultimate to its end, then they just deconstructed it and destroyed it, essentially. But they've also now merged it with the regular Marvel Universe. And so I guess from my perspective is the question now, are we going to build up and tear down this universe, that we're going to go through this, we're going to introduce all these new and different characters and really go that Ultimates route, and really have it be the status quo? Or are they just built, because that's always the thing. Do they tell the writers, hey, look, guys, 2-3 years, we're going to just rewrite everything anyway. So go ahead, go nuts, have fun, experiment, and do new stories. And I think maybe what you get there is this idea that you do these things, and then if it works, then you keep it, and if it doesn't, then you just reboot it. I think that maybe that was sort of, I think that's sort of what happened with the Ultimate Universe, is that it worked. And so the Ultimate Universe carried on for a very long time. And then when they did get rid of it, they actually just brought the best parts over.
Yes.
I think that with New 52, they knew that they could crisis it all away at any point. And so they did a lot of experiments, a lot of which did not work out well. And so now they're going back to basics, I think that one of the things with the return of Steve Rogers and the Hydra Cap is that if things don't work out the way they want, in essence, they have this out. They can always bring Steve back in one form or another, but if they also do want to end it, if they want to move beyond Cap, they also have this perfect out. Now, like I said, my hope is that they are going to phase out Steve Rogers' Captain America. Not because I don't love the character of Steve Rogers. I truly do. I just think that, at a certain point, I actually think Steve Rogers does deserve happiness, I do think that at a certain point, letting Steve Rogers retire, letting Tony Stark retire, for what it's worth, as much as I miss the Fantastic Four, I do also like how it ended. I like the fact that Reed and Sue got to retire, essentially. That Reed and Franklin and Sue and Valeria, that they got to have a place to be a family and live their lives, along with the Future Foundation. That they could be this whole big family and have their story come to a reasonable conclusion. Now, of course, they can always be brought back at a moment's notice. They can come in from the next dimension, no problem. But at the moment, they had a conclusion to their story. And I would like to see that for Tony. I would like to see that for Peter. Maybe he gets back with MJ. Maybe, we just saw in 2099 that the head of Alchemex from 2099 is now in 2016 as well, as the 2099 that used to exist no longer does. And he is running the terrorist organization called the Fist. I wonder, we know from the recent Spider-Man book that they seem to have deja vu of when they fought the Regent on Secret Wars world. And the question then becomes, what else came over? And did their daughter come over, Mm-hmm. Did, and that was actually something I was thinking. Well, Kobik's about that same age. And they both have the big pigtails. I'm not saying that their daughter became Kobik, but maybe whatever was left of that daughter came in, basically in trying to find a place to be, found itself at Kobik. Crazy fan theory, I know. Not based on anything, but it makes me wonder. And it makes me wonder if Kobik is going to come to learn that with great power comes great responsibility. It's an interesting way for things to have played out. And I do wonder if that history that existed there is going to come back into it. Now, another thing that was just teased, and I don't know if this gets me anywhere closer to my Superior 4 idea, but did you see who else is going to be an Iron Man soon?
I don't think so.
Okay. They put out a teaser for the infamous Iron Man. And who is the infamous Iron Man?
I didn't see this. No, who is this?
Victor Von Doom.
Oh.
Yes, so Victor Von Doom is going to apparently be getting his own book as the infamous Iron Man, where he is going... which again, to me, goes to this idea of maybe Tony Stark steps down.
Or he's in prison after Civil War.
Yeah, but again, and this is something we've said, I don't know... I don't see what the fights are going to be about in Civil War.
Unless Tony does something really stupid.
Well, yeah. Well, he already has. That's the thing, is he did something stupid, and the heroes came and they said, quit being stupid, Tony. He kidnaps the guy. He kidnaps Ulysses. And after that, okay, maybe we'll see in Civil War 3 that he's under arrest and he's put in jail, but that seems like a little harsh thing. He didn't actually, it's like, it didn't seem that much further than what these freaking idiot superheroes are doing every day anyway, Yeah. This is actually an interesting question about, the law about superhero law and how it's applied. One of the things that's kind of interesting in these ideas is, I remember, I think it was a book about the villains of Spider-Man. And I always remember this, and I can't remember what issue it was, but it was basically two low-level thugs who were sitting there talking about how, when Spider-Man arrests you, he doesn't have the power to actually arrest you. He can't actually do anything, So basically, you just sit there, they bring you in, they hold you for a couple of days, but then they have to let you go because they don't really have any evidence against you. They can't really prosecute you. And it makes you wonder, in this pre-crime idea if it's much more about disruption of supervillainy actions than actual imprisonment, Because we do see that there seems to be a lot of revolving door going on here where, which is that, the heroes come, they bust it up because they know something's going to happen, and they show up and they're basically harassing these supervillains. Because they just know they're up to something because they fit the description and, they have their pre-crime, Ulysses saying, oh, something's going to go down. And, and it's not to say that things aren't going down, but it does open up a much more subtle question within this idea of supervillainy, especially when you come into this question of who is really a supervillain. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to see in Ms. Marvel and why Ms. Marvel quits. We saw in the last issue of Ms. Marvel when she goes to track down a bad guy, it turns out to be, the star football guy from her school. And it's like, whatever he was going to do, he's not officially a supervillain yet. He's not a supervillain. Even if he was going to become a supervillain, there's nothing to be said for arresting him. There's no action that's actually going to be positive in this. So, it's an interesting question of what exactly are these heroes doing, when they're arresting people? Mm-hmm. And are they just, is it more about really arresting and locking away, or is it just about disruption of what they're doing? And then the villains get out, but now the villains are mad because they didn't get to pull their master scheme. So, of course, guys like Kingpin are upset, but at the end of the day, they're not being locked up. They're just being harassed, And at what point does that harassment become problematic from a civil liberties point of view when it expands beyond what we can agree are threats, like interdimensional celestial destroyers and Thanos, and what is a possible threat, some high school kid dabbling with super science. I do think that Civil War, it's very amorphous now what we're looking at. And like I said, I still don't know what the fights are going to be about. I still don't know how Tony is going to come to blows with anyone on this, because unless Tony's going to say, hey, don't disrupt that thing you're about to disrupt, all they have to do is just not tell Tony what they're doing, unless Tony's going to actively just start shooting at superheroes for no reason. It's like, why are you shooting at us, Tony? Oh, because you're going to do something. It's like, now you're profiling us, Tony. You're just assuming we're going to do something, And it gets into a circular. So I still don't know if we're really going to get to war. And to me, I think that would be kind of the most enjoyable bit, is if it never really gets to a war, but it's a war of words. It's just debates and arguments. And disagreements, and leading to just everyone saying, I quit. Because we know the kids are all quitting. The kids are going to quit the Avengers. They're going to burn their Avengers ID cards, and they're going to form the Champions. Because, that's better, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how that's necessarily better. We're just another group of heroes. That nothing that made us Avengers has changed with what we're doing now that we're the Champions. But, okay. We'll go along with it.
Well, see, that's going to be that was my question. Are they going to get rid of that all new, all different Avengers team? Because Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, and Nova, they're all going to the Champions. Tony Stark's, we can assume is going to be out of action. So it's like, who's left on that Avengers team? It's like Vision and Sam Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the end of Civil War. It's Vision and Thor, Rhodey and Tony, and just three guys in a room. And then we bust out the LMDs, because Tony always wanted to replace the Avengers with robots anyway. Everyone, we've all seen those. He always has his Avengers bots.
Yes.
But
no, you mentioned infamous Iron Man. The one I saw was did you see Unworthy Thor?
Oh yes, Thor the Unworthy, Odin's son the Unworthy. I'm hoping one of my letter that I wrote to Thor, where I actually suggested that name, or that I differentiated him with that name, gets published in that issue. But yeah, no, that is going to be great. We're going to have Thor apparently has Ultimate Thor's hammer, so he finds a hammer that he is worthy enough to lift. So good for him on that. Although I'm not sure if the enchantment on Ultimate Thor's hammer was the same. I don't know if it was actually. I don't know if it was really that only the worthy could lift it as much as it was just super, super heavy. Did you read any of the Ultimate Thor books?
I read the Ultimates early on. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. They were kind of vague because early on they were kind of painting him as like, is he really an Asgardian or is he just a crazy man who thinks he's an Asgardian?
Yeah. Yes, although it was eventually revealed that yes, he is an Asgardian. So, but yeah, so Thor's going to be able to pick up that hammer, and we still don't know what made Thor unworthy. I come back to the idea that Loki is the rightful ruler of Asgard, and that's what's going to be the reveal. And again, I do think that Loki is playing a long hero's game here. As I've said, with what happened to Dario Agger last issue, it seems like Loki set him up to fail. That Loki basically, made deals with although he, of course, first made his deal with the Dark Elves, but then Loki ingratiates himself into it and immediately starts undoing everybody. So now, once he gives him his army of Hulks, he thinks he's unstoppable and he's going to go face up all these other villains as if he's the first guy with superpowers and money to go up against the big cabal of supervillains, It's like, really? You really think your cowman powers are that scary? And not for nothing, he has cowman powers, Even if they're ancient Greek god cowman powers, they're still just cowman powers. And now, of course, his army of Hulks is oddly enough now hanging out with Loki. And again, it's like, I wonder how this is going to play out. How will Dario Agger's army of Hulks, which before Dario got taken away, was the last person they saw was Loki. Now maybe he's got an army of Hulks. Yeah, says Loki, I have an army. Tony Stark says, we have a Hulk. Now Loki says, and I have an army of Hulks. So check and mate, sir. Check and mate. Yes, but it will be interesting to see what they do with that. And let's see what else is going on in the Marvel Universe this week. I do think that the return of Thor Odin's son is interesting, although for what it's worth, it's not that surprising. We knew he was out there. We knew the hammer was out there. In fact, the last time we saw him, it was him finding the hammer, I think. I'm not too shocked to see that story play out, It'll be what it'll be. Yeah, it's good to see it. It's good to know it's there. And now in this case, which kind of undoes this idea of second generation heroes, is that we are getting Thor back, suggesting that maybe, we do know that Jane Foster has cancer, and that is like the one thing that can kill a superhero. Unless you use magic, which she has said, I don't want to use magic because there's always a cost, which is true. There's always a cost. As we learned from, I can't remember the name of that series, but it was a series with Patsy Walker and, Angelica Jones, Starfire and She-Hulk and Spectrum hanging out as like sort of like Sex in the City with superheroes, and Angelica was going through cancer again because her cancer came back, and then Patsy made a deal with made a deal with Damien Hellstrom to cure her cancer, because you can do that if you're the devil, you know. It was pretty cool. I'm really waiting for Damien to make a comeback in Patsy Walker, and it is my hope. You know, oh, that was the thing. You know, in speaking about Jessica Jones season 2, because they did ask David Tennant about that, and he said, "You can be surprised. You know, you can be surprised where a story can go." Because they were asking him, "Is it possible for Kilgrave to come back?" And he says, "Well, you know, anything can happen." You know, which is kind of a pat thing, but it does make me wonder. You know, and he has said he would love to come back. You know, and he hasn't said, "I don't know how they'll bring me back, but I would love to come back." Which is something that you might think he'd say in that situation. Which, you know, and again, I've made this idea that I put this idea out there that if you introduce a character like Damien Hellstrom, suddenly bringing Kilgrave back is possible, because of course magic has a cost, and if you're going to have Damien Hellstrom try to do good, that good has to be offset with some kind of equal evil. That he's going to have to release an evil into the world if he's going to do good, and what better evil is there than Kilgrave? You know, and so I mean that's my hope, that we do get Kilgrave back, and that it is because we get Damien Hellstrom, and that's, you know, that's how they give Patsy Walker superpowers, is, you know, that basically she gets her powers, but then Kilgrave gets released back into the world, you know, because that's the cost, you know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I certainly am looking forward to all of the Marvel stuff coming out, including now the next big thing from Marvel is, of course, Doctor Strange, which we got our prelude for, and we found out that there's going to be a lot more characters than we have known so far. We're going to get Daniel Drum, the original Doctor, in there. We're going to get Nico Minoru's mother, who is a supervillain, is going to be in there, which is going to open up all this question about who's going to be the betrayers and, sadly, who's going to die. And, you know, I hate to tell you this, Daniel and Tina, you know, both of you guys, you're not alive in the current Marvel Universe. You are part of the expansion of other characters in the Marvel Universe. You may not make it out of these movies alive. Now, that said, what is most interesting about having Daniel Drum in the prelude book as a Master of the Mystic Arts, given that we are going towards the Black Panther film, and Black Panther does have a mysticism to it, and for what it's worth, that Dr. Voodoo has had close relations with Black Panther over the years, it makes me wonder if having Daniel Drum in this is going to tie into Wakanda. We know that their magic is going to be, you know, super science magic. As I said, it's kind of telling that when they're doing the spells there, they're all speaking with Nordic runes, suggesting that, you know, it's all Asgardian magic, you know, Asgardian science is magic, yada, yada, yada. I do wonder if we might see some crossover between Daniel Drum and T'Challa in Doctor Strange. And that would be an interesting way to open that door, you know. I'm still hoping for Meng Na as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. to come into the Sanctum in the last scene. Alice, you know, because I think that would be like the best way to kick off the next phase of the Marvel Universe. I think that we're saying this is phase 4 now, or phase 3. Yeah, and Doctor Strange is like the first film of phase 4. Correct? I think
sure.
But if so, that's like the perfect way to open it, because that's how you opened up Iron Man and the expanded universe. Mm-hmm. And that would be a great way to show that this universe is going to keep on expanding, is to have a replay of that scene, but with something different, you know. And like I say, it would be great if this is, you know, Melinda May recruiting her defenders for the new S.H.I.E.L.D., you know. Because they really do got to tie this stuff back into your Netflix universe, and you know, get Because we got that Defenders series coming, and the Defenders without Doctor Strange. He's right there in Greenwich Village. He's part of that world. They gotta get Benedict Cumberbatch into there. I really think you can't do it without that. Mm-hmm. But that's my theory. I don't know. What would you like to see? So Phil, I want you to think for a minute and give me what is your dream thing to see in Doctor Strange? What would be the thing that makes you go, oh, that was exactly what I wanted, that would tie it into something else, or even just something from the Doctor Strange universe that they have to put that in there. They have to have something in there about it. What do you think?
I don't know, maybe some mystical characters like Dormammu or something like that, or maybe even Nightmare, or something that maybe ties into Doctor Strange mythology somehow into Thor and the Asgardian world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as we've said, we know from the Lego toys, if the Legos are spoiling things again, that we see Wong and Mordo and Doctor Strange fighting a big tentacled thing, which could be Shuma-Gorath, could be the Dweller in the Darkness. And of course, we do know, and this is an interesting thing to me, in reading that prelude and seeing the prelude to Doctor Strange, there's this novice sorceress who has this magical scepter that looks like Nico Minoru's scepter, and it's wielding a huge amount of dark energy. And something about it just reminded me of Whitney Frost from the second season of Agent Carter. We know that the Dark Force is something that's been established in the MCU through the television universe. And this idea of being touched by the darkness and being drawn into that darkness, and that darkness, even the way they described it, that the energy was sucking the light out of things. Much in the way that the dark energy, the dark matter sucked the energy out of things, and it makes me think that we are going to get some kind of tie-in with that. I don't know if we're going to get Whitney Frost, but it does seem like there was a parallel between what we saw with Whitney Frost in the second season of Agent Carter, and what we're seeing in this prelude book with this other character who is manipulating and being exposed to this dark energy universe. It's interesting to me. I always I probably see connections that aren't there more often than I see connections that are there. But I really think that we might be moving towards something with that. All these things are written with a shared universe in mind. Even if the movie people and the TV people aren't talking right now, they are. And what it really is, it's not even that the movies don't acknowledge the TV shows. It's that the movies supersede the TV shows. But the movies are aware of everything the TV shows say. Mm-hmm. And they are likewise aware if they're going to establish something. It would have been nice to have an Inhuman reference in Civil War, in the movie Civil War. But they did say that, more powered people are showing up every day, which sort of works into that same idea. They don't have to call out the Inhumans because, of course, for what it's worth, that's the Inhumans name for themselves. I don't know how popular that is in the common parlance. Everyone will be talking about the Inhumans. But people would know about, superhumans showing up, Because for what it's worth, superhumans have been showing up for a long time in the MCU in this universe. We know that long before the Terrigen gas is released, we had a guy like Crusher Krell, in that universe doing things, and so, we know that these people exist out there, and it will be interesting to see how they play out. Okay, we had a real long one this week for the roundup. Is there anything else you want to talk about this week, Phil, on Superconnectivity?
No, I think that's about it.
Yeah, it's all comic books this week, which is good. we did touch on the cinematic universe a bit too, but it's a strong. There's clearly a lot going on in the comic book universe at Marvel right now. They're definitely building things out. Oh, actually, there was this one thing. It's not really a Marvel related item. It's actually a DC related item. Did you see that CW has made a deal with Netflix now?
What was that?
Oh, basically all their shows all their superhero shows are now going to be streaming on Netflix. Basically.
Oh yeah. Like 8 days after the season finales?
Yeah. So it seems, for what it's worth, I don't know if this is Netflix hedging its bets on the Marvel, or if they're really trying to make themselves a destination for nerd culture. And I think they definitely are doing that. I think they definitely want to be that. When you think, oh, where am I going to go get my superhero fix, you're going to go, oh, I'll go to Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Because they are competing with Hulu and Amazon Prime and all these all these other groups have like stronger backbenches that they can put up. Mm-hmm. Hulu is owned by the TV networks, and so they have all these rights for what they produce. And Amazon, of course, is just Amazon and is freaking a Goliath. And Netflix is just sort of out there without a strong backing. But if they make these deals, they can make themselves that destination, and that is what they need to be. They need to be that destination for genre entertainment, because I think that's what's been really profitable for them. And I mean, I know that I have my Netflix subscription expressly because of Marvel, and I'm sure there may well be a lot of DC folks that are going to be doing that too. And for what it's worth, pretty much all the DC animated movies wind up on Netflix very quickly, and so I think that probably they want to build into that, and I think I would wager that you might start seeing, if the CW crossover helps them, that you might start seeing some original Netflix DC television universe stuff coming up soon, which would be cool. I'm voting for Ambush Bug. Ambush Bug. DC television universe on Netflix, and they could have all the CW characters come in as do cameos in it. That would be awesome. Although I've also heard that the CW is going to be renewing Constantine too, so that's coming back.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's definite, but I think their talks are in the works. I don't know if it's 100% in writing. But
yeah, there are always talks in the work. Yeah, no, it would be fantastic. And then we just need a Netflix Damien Hellstorm series, and then you have the DC Marvel crossover, Constantine versus Hellstorm. It just writes itself.
Yes.
That's what we all. We all want to get to that point where we can have an Amalgam Universe television show. Well, maybe not all of us, but I do. Okay, I think that's enough connections for 1 week. If you would like to write to me about what you would like to see on Netflix, or what you would like to see in the comic books, or what you would like to see in the movies, just write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Twitter at CHARLIEESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. I live tweet lots of shows when they're on. The Incredible Hulk is the one I keep on trying to do for my GammaCast. But soon I'll be live tweeting Legends of Tomorrow every week, because we'll be doing the podcast of Tomorrow next season. So watch for that. And Phil, where can they find you?
You can always discuss anything Marvel or DC with me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I'm at nightwingpdp. Most social media is Nightwing PDP, including, this week I started a Pinterest account. Just search for Phil Parrish, and I'll have stuff up there for all the podcasts I do, Marvel and DC, so check it out.
Sweet. And what exactly is Pinterest again?
I'm still kind of learning
what that thing is.
I'm kind of learning right now. It just seems like finding pictures and other content from other people and just basically pinning them to boards. I don't. I'm still kind of learning it too. So.
Yeah, so it's MySpace meets Tumblr, I guess. I don't know. Sounds great. If you guys pin things, please pin us at Nightwing PDP. And, okay, that is all of our connections for this week. Please connect with us again. Have a great week.